What up, FIFA Tiers? It's B-Rad from the FSB creators, and we are bringing you another episode of the FUT Tiers Podcast. I apologise for my absence last week, but obviously I did pose a question, and we had some interesting answers from my fellow compatriots about their all-time kind of FIFA 11 cards and their favourite cards during the game this year. And obviously we are joined again by them today. So hello to LAJS and Mers. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
I'm doing fairly well, mate. Doing fairly well.
I did like seeing some of those teams. They brought back like proper nostalgia over like it's like the thing actually that brought the most nostalgia when you talked about them OP cards, like when we talked about the Begovic and the Butland thing. Like they were the first, and Smalling as well, or Luke Smalling as I called him. You know,
Mike.
it's one of those things. Yeah, it was one of those things where like it made me think about that time where you go back to the start of the game and you find that one player, like years ago, like a couple of years ago, when it was Joe Gomez. You know, like he just seemed to like even at the end of the game he was still OP, and it just brings back good nostalgia of the start of FIFA as we head into FIFA 23. Don't you think?
Mm. Yeah, I remember when Joe Gomez was worth 100k at the start of FIFA. Those are the days.
Yeah.
I find now it's not always about the OP cards. Like I just find a card that I just enjoy. So like, for instance, for me, being Luis Diaz, just having that first inform and then just falling in love with it, and then just being like, oh, I'm just going to use him pretty much every time he gets a new special card.
I mean, I'm just gesturing a shirt here. There's a
Yeah.
man with a shirt that I own that definitely sums that up perfectly in Andre Silva. I mean, we've heard enough about that though. So
I definitely think it is one of those things when you do find a card, and like I referenced that Moments Dybala that I had, and like this year for me it was the flashback Neymar. Like I had that all the way until his footies card came out. I had him in my starting squad, even though there were probably cards that were better in game. Maybe I liked the way he felt in the game, so that's why I sort of continued to persist with him, even though he was lower rated than others. He just felt nice for me. But talking of cards in the game, we are now amongst the sort of, it's not really a promo I suppose as such, we're in pre-season promo, but it's kind of like EA giving newly transferred players boosted cards at their new clubs. Now we've got a few to just sort of mention and gloss over, and we'll find out whether you guys have used them and how you think they perform in game. So first one we'll go to is the sort of I suppose slightly older one in Rudiger's card at Real Madrid. So this card was a 87, 86, 88. 97 rated centre back with 92 pace, 98 defence, 98 physical. Now, do you guys remember his previous upgraded card, the one?
Honourable mentions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That is a card that I had in my team for a good, like, maybe 250 games plus.
Yeah,
I can't remember the exact number, but it was a good amount.
I really enjoyed using that card. I thought he felt really good defensively, so I can only imagine sort of how brilliant this card is going to be. Coming in at 190k, definitely worth it in terms of that, especially with SBCs that you can do to complete him. But yeah, anyone got him yet or tried him yet?
Got him, but haven't used him. I think the problem is also at this sort of stage of FIFA as well, just don't really play it as much as I would like if you're trying to grind it in October, November, February, March sort of time. So now it's like I'm not really doing FUT Champs, so don't really get the opportunity to try them out there. Not really doing much in terms of Div Rivals as well this week, because again, it's just like coming towards the end. Do we really need it? Not really. So it's only really objectives, and the problem is with the objectives, it channels you to use certain players. So like when you're doing Gabby Jesus, obviously you got to have like a set amount of Brazilians in the team, so it's like, oh, I can't really fit them in there. And then doing the kickstart, like it's club specific ones.
That's
so
what I
I
was
might
going to
use
say,
it.
yeah.
I'm using when it gets to the Real Madrid, one probably,
yep.
But yeah, that's probably the only real time I'm probably going to really try to get to use it.
And that is the one good thing I think about that particular objective, is bringing out cards that are related to these teams now. I think it's nice because you'll be able to build your Man City, PSG, Chelsea, Real Madrid, Liverpool teams or whatever with these new cards in the game, and you'll actually at least get to use them for 3 games because you've got to score in 3 separate matches. So, you know, I imagine most people are playing Golden Goal if it's not a Golden Goal mode already, which it might well be. But you get to actually try out a lot of these cards, and also during the course of doing all the 85x10, if you've kept some of the premium sort of Man City or premium Real Madrid cards, like for me, for instance, I've got like Vinicius and Eder Militao and stuff, so I'll get to use those cards, whereas I maybe wouldn't have because my team has been the same now for a little while. I have just upgraded it with one of the other Moments SBCs we'll talk about in a second, but yeah, I do like that addition of that Kickstart SBC to be able to give you a chance to use these cards. Otherwise, at the end of this stage of FIFA, like you say, you're getting the cards, but really you're not going to put them to use, are you?
No, you're just not. Like, this is what happened with like last year with the 85 pluses and everything, is just rinsing and repeating them, doing the SBC players and stuff and player picks, and then just like not actually using the players.
Yeah, it's just a case of like almost a bit like a sticker book, isn't it, at this point, trying to get that one card that's eluded you through the year. But the next one to sort of talk about, or the next newest one, who is hat-trick hero this week in the second half of the Man City game, is Erling Haaland's transferred Man City card. Now this is one of the ones that I have done. I haven't used him yet. And yeah, this card, I mean, stats-wise, looks insane. I just wonder whether I'm going to notice in-game that he's still, with his body type, still feels clunky. Have you guys got him or used him at all?
Not yet. I've not used him yet as per you, but the thing that I do like about this card, I've liked Haaland all year. He's now got 4-star skills finally. It's the thing that I said has been missing from his card for me pretty much all year, and I'm just glad to see that he's finally got it. So when I do start using this card, I'll still be destroying people. It's just I can actually do exactly what I want to do. Yeah,
definitely. What do you think about this card, Mers? A lot of 99 stats on there.
There is a lot of high stats, but when I think about a certain other high-rated card in terms of Lewandowski, I just don't seem to get on with that card in-game. And Haaland's probably a little bit more clunkier than Lewandowski in-game, but Lewandowski is, again, somebody that, generally speaking, look at a card and always go, yeah, that doesn't look too bad, probably be quite good in game. But then when you do use them, you just like, it just always feels like it's just missing something, like it doesn't quite feel right. And then you just go to use somebody else that you're so used to, and it's just like, yeah, that is what clicks, that just doesn't click, and then you just go back to whatever you prefer.
Well, I think this is the thing, doesn't it? This upgrades, or these sort of high upgrades, expose just how much body type does actually play a part in the game mode of FIFA, like, and the way that you play. Like, it always seems to be, for me, low center of gravity, high agility dribblers seem to be better than these kind of players, whereas actually, you know, we've seen what this guy is like in real life, you know, already at this point in his career, and he's 22 years old, but it doesn't unfortunately transfer into a game because the mechanics don't allow for this to be as good as it probably should be in game. But generally, looking at the stats, like 90 in his shooting stats, like he's got 99 on everything except penalties. Like, that's absolutely insane. Like, and 99 strength with 96 stamina. I feel like if this card could feel the way these stats look, then this would be absolutely insane as a sort of main forward in most end teams. The next one we're going to touch on, and this is the one I was talking about that I have done and put into my team directly, is Renato Sanchez. Now, this card, in my opinion, I'm glad this has come out now, because if this comes out any earlier or any other point in the year, this is scary, because we know what Renato Sanchez is like every single year. Card always seems to be OP. Is 84 rated. Signature signings. No, is it signature signings? Yeah. Signature signings card was like $500,000 for so long, wasn't it? I remember it being at around that point. Here we go. 5. So it's still in April 300k, and back in March was at 550k. Now that probably went down because of his next card which came out, which was the UCL Live card, wasn't it? The Road to the Final one.
Mm-hmm.
So that probably came out. Yep, it did. Lo and behold, came out in March. That ties in with the price drop there. So that 84 rated card was 500,000 coins. That is absolutely insane, but it's because in-game, this guy always is a beast. And this card, I don't think will be any different. He's slotted in with my Neymar and my Team of the Year Messi, and I can't wait to try this card out. It's insane that he used to play for Swansea, when you think about it.
Yeah, on loan at Swansea, and he flopped hard.
Yeah, like
Flopped real hard.
did nothing, did he? Not that I remember. But yeah, finds himself a PSG player now, and well, we'll get to see the difference that he makes over for that team, if any. Obviously, not a lot of people have a lot of positive things to say about that league, but you can still notice a player in a team, and certainly will notice him when it comes to Champions League, which we will be talking about in the Extra Time podcast, so make sure you go and check out that episode after you've listened to this one. The last player to talk about at the moment's SBCs is going to be the new one tonight, so this is Monday as we record this, and that is Diego Carlos's centre-back card. Just an 88 and an 87 for this one. Very nicely priced, especially with the new changes to an SBC I'm going to talk about in a moment. Comes in at 150k, 91 pace, 97 defendant, 98 physical. He's Brazilian, so he links to a lot of other players. Not seeing a lot about this guy in the Prem though, really, at the moment. Is he injured?
He is injured, yes.
Yeah.
He got injured probably about second game in.
Yeah. So there was a lot of sort of, I wouldn't say hype about him, but surprise about him being picked up by Villa and no one else sort of spotting him or him going under the radar. Card looks nice, medium high work rates, which is quite nice for a defender. He's 6'1". Does that mean he fits into your wheelhouse, Mers?
He's the type of centre back that I sometimes like, but I find that his agility and balance is always still on the lowish side, except for when it gets to this stage and a 96 or 97 rated card, which usually fixes that sort of situation. But early stages ones, I'll probably say I'm not actually usually that keen on a Diego Carlos.
Yeah, I mean, what is mad is his agility and balance is actually 84 and 86, so still not that high, but higher than Rudiger's, which seems insane.
I mean, I think Rudiger has lower to begin with on the base card.
Yeah. So that seems strange, but he's not someone that I'll necessarily do unless I find myself with sort of having to recycle fodder and putting them into an SBC. I think for me at the moment, the ones that are in here that I haven't completed, i.e. Rudiger, will probably get picked for my fodder before Diego Carlos, but there's no reason why things won't both get done, because we've now got an 85 times 10 times 10 with lower chemistry, so ever so close to what everybody wants. Everybody wants the 85 times 10 to be repeatable, so we can go back to that lovely phase where everyone's trying their best to pack premium cards, and so it's now gone up to 10 repeatable SBCs for the next 6 days. We're getting close, aren't we, guys? We're getting close to the time when they're just going to drop it forever. I think probably it looks like it's going to be next week. Do you think?
Yeah, because if you look at last year, and it was said that last week, I believe, that it was on the 5th of September when the unlimited drop. Yeah. So next Monday is the 5th of September, which is going to be the exact same date. But it's just the fact that they've been dropping them on the Monday, whereas I think last year they were dropping them on the Friday or something like that. So,
okay.
Yeah. So
it seems pretty set on.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Plus, also the fact is that batch 1 ends on Friday, this Friday. So I have a feeling, I don't know if they'll do a batch 2. I have a feeling that they'll skip a batch 2. And then that's when they'll go crazy and just have everything in packs, or they'll do batch 2 for 7 days, or something like that, and then have just everything in packs.
Yeah, it will be a crazy time for everyone to just be constantly on the companion app recycling. I remember that time last year, like every opportunity I got, toilet breaks at work or anything, I was just doing my best to recycle them, just to do my best to try and get those top cards. And last year, I mean, I didn't even get any of those. I got like the Acuna a few times, but never got like the 99s that were out. But this year I've already got the Ronaldo, which surprised me. So I just need to get that 99 Messi. That's all we're longing for at the moment. And maybe a team of the season Mbappe, that would be nice. So I did get team of the season Ben Yedder the other day. I'd quite like to try him out. But he's now down to like 35k or something crazy. One player I forgot to mention, and actually two things I forgot to mention. So Haaland, we talked about his moments card, is confirmed as a one to watch for FIFA 23. There has been an image released of the Man City team, and Haaland's card type shows as a one to watch. So clunky or not, he will be there, and no doubt, I have no doubt, that he will be getting several upgrades throughout next year. So maybe a good trading card if nothing else. But the other thing is objectives. Gabriel Jesus. Now, Mers, as an Arsenal supporter, you must be chuffed to, one, see how he is performing for your team, but also chuffed to see this card. I think they did do him a little bit dirty, didn't they? They've not given him 5-star skills.
Yeah, but then it looks like they haven't really been doing that with a lot of these moment cards anyway, like they have done with some of the previous cards in, like, say, during shapeshifters and stuff. So it's probably not that much of a surprise that they didn't make him 5-star. However, it's still a very good looking card. It doesn't take that many games to do him. It's only 5 games, I believe, that you need to play to do him. So it was whereas in like last week with Lukaku, I said I wasn't really interested in doing it. However, this week, because it's an Arsenal card, 100% done him. 100% done him.
And it's squad battles at the end of the day. Like, as much as that mode is boring, like, and yes, you can do it in rivals, but obviously it's easier to get certain parts of this done in squad battles. 5 squad battle games for a 96 rated card, even if, dare I say it, Mers, you are going to use him as fodder, it is worth it to be done for a 96 rated card. And actually, he has got 5-star skills. It's 5-star weak foot they've done him dirty on, that they've not given him. So yeah, that is a little bit of a shame. Have you completed this card, Luke?
No, I've not been on enough to complete cards like that. I'm trying to slowly get back into the game just in time for when FIFA 23 releases, but I'm still on a bit of a hiatus, we'll say.
And then that brings us into real world football. We may as well start on that game. You did obviously come back from 1-0 down to beat Fulham, which was a nice result, I think, at home. They've certainly been taking it to teams this season, and a redemption story for Gabriel, the other Gabriel.
It definitely was. I think this is definitely also a tale of 2 different seasons. Like, if this was last season with last season's team, I definitely would have seen this as 100% a loss, or potentially at best a draw. But it shows like how this team is coming along, improving, showing a lot of character, playing some good football as well. But yet again, is still proving me right in this sort of situation. Gabriel Jesus doesn't seem to quite be doing it for these type of games. Like, he still has a few opportunities and stuff, but Fulham with that deep line, and where Jesus is starting pretty much, or playing when he's in that attack, like in the out wide position, because he seems to be like very much on that left hand side where Martinelli is, and then Martinelli seems to be like more in the middle.
Yeah,
and it just kind of doesn't get him quite into play. But when he is in the middle, he has been having like those few runs in behind and some nice little like play around stick attack and football inside the box. But it could have potentially been more, I suppose, if that Fulham defence wasn't quite as good. I mean, to be fair, we've seen a defence this weekend that hasn't been quite good from the newly promoted teams. But
yes,
Fulham definitely showing character, which is what I am liking from them this season. Like, most of the time in previous seasons, like, they've been quite big pushovers, but this season so far, they're not pushovers. They're actually showing character themselves.
Yeah, and like I've alluded to about other teams when they've come up to this league haven't taken it to teams, and Fulham definitely are not scared of taking it to teams, which I'm really enjoying seeing. It means that like you're going to get very interesting games with them. I think like they're not going to be the sort of team like, let's say like a team like Palace this week, who did the classic, went 1-0 up, and then invite a team like Man City on them, and it's just like you can't do that. If you're going to do that, you've then got to think about defending that whole game against a team that will eventually break you down because of the class. Like, and that will happen to Fulham if they don't carry on just attacking teams and going at teams, and obviously you need a lot of stamina and you need a lot of like composure and a lot of you need to be strict with what you're doing to be able to do that. But they will get results. They're not going to get results necessarily against top teams, but they will get results. I mean, they did obviously get a result against Liverpool, but up until this weekend, Liverpool were looking pretty ropey.
Yep.
I did only manage to catch one actual game this weekend, and that was Man United Southampton. I think a draw would have been fair in that game, but Man United did manage to get the win. Nice volley from Bruno Fernandes, but generally I wasn't impressed with Man United's performance. But so the only thing I was impressed with was actually they did look a lot better defensively than they have done. But still, there's still so much room for improvement in that side. We had Brighton versus Leeds. Brighton getting a 1-0 home win against them. Chelsea and Leicester was an interesting game, wasn't it? Conor Gallagher getting sent off. Quite rightly so as well. I mean, they were definitely 2 yellows. He was a bit... he kind of had no choice with the second challenge, but it was a little bit, you just have to take your medicine in that situation. Sterling getting 2 goals on the score sheet, which is good for your prediction, Luke, as a starting point.
Yeah, he's finally got off the mark to what I'm saying he'll do. 2 in 1 game, but yeah, about Gallagher there, you don't take you let that go.
You think?
Normally, against most teams, yeah. Leicester just have nothing about them at the moment. If you're 20 or so minutes into a game and you decide, I'm going to get I could let them go through, or I could get sent off and the team are down to 10 men. Against most other sides, you're screwed. You're then limited to just a draw. But the fact that Leicester are pretty useless at the moment is the only reason that that's not gone worse.
Yeah. No, I see what you mean. I meant
Fulham against anyone else, done for.
Yeah, I meant he's got to take his medicine for what he's done. But yes, I agree. Maybe in hindsight, you don't, given their current form, Leicester aren't exactly a team to be feared at the moment, are they?
No, but
and I am seeing Brendan Rodgers as the potential first manager to get sacked. I think there will be a close second, but we will come on to that game in a little bit. But yeah, good to see that they're starting to play Sterling towards Sterling, and Sterling. Certainly the Reece James goal where he set him up was typical Sterling, be in the right place for that cross in the box to tap it in. That's what we know and love from him. We'll go into the 9-0 biggest win of Liverpool's career. I think 7-0 was it up until that point, I think they said in the game. And yeah, fancy scoring 9 without a goal and assist from Mo Salah. Who would have thought that? I've seen on Twitter so many betting slips from that game where it was ridiculous things like over 4 goals, Trent to assist someone else to score, Salah to score, and everybody's slip has been let down by that one statistic. But I mean, yeah, Bournemouth are in the mud, aren't they? We did say it. We did say it all pre-season, didn't we? All of us said, having not bought any players and not really tried to have a go pre-season at improving their situation, will they struggle? And it looks definitely like they are going to struggle.
Yeah, they will struggle, but it wasn't just betting when it comes to Salah, it was also fancy Premier League.
Yes, that was
I had him captained as well. I was like looking at the scores, and I was looking at every time a goal was scored. I was like, okay, I'll go and see. Has Mohamed Salah scored? No, damn it. Right, okay. Hopefully next one will be his. Yeah. And it was just like 9 goals, and it was like not a single contribution. I was like, right, that's it. I'm tempted to take him out of my team now.
Yeah, no, yeah, that was very interesting. And it's not like he didn't have his chances. There were a couple there where, you know, I get that he's mainly a left-footed player, but that one where the ball got played in by Harvey Elliott, I don't see how he hasn't just tapped that in with his right foot, or just even ran into the ball. Just got there to like be a block against the ball is enough to have put that in the back of the net. Instead, he's tried to flick it in with his left boot and it's just glanced over, which was, from that distance, insane of someone of that caliber.
Absolutely.
Missing Mane.
Yeah. Maybe they sold the wrong guy. So the game we'll touch a little bit more on, like I say, is the Man City Palace game. So Palace get 2 goals. They get a deflected goal off John Stones' leg, and then they get another goal from another set piece from an Anderson header to get 2-0. Then do the sort of the what we call the classic error, when you're 2-0 up. They sat back and invited a Man City team that actually at that point still had some chances, but had that second half talk, or that pre-second half time talk, and from what I understood from Haaland's interview, and I imagine this would have been the case, basically Pep just said, carry on the way you are, we will eventually get there. And sure enough, first goal, let's talk about that, Mers, because that was a solo goal from Bernardo Silva, who's not as good as Mahrez.
No, he's not.
Apparently.
Mahrez better.
Mahrez
is better. Stick to my guns.
You're sticking to your guns, despite Bernardo Silva's involvement in several situations that game, yeah?
Yeah, no. It was a game of FIFA. It was scripted.
Scripted, yeah. It sounds...
Yeah, so he dribbles past pretty much everybody. Yes, it gets a bit of a deflection on that first goal, but he dribbles past everybody, puts it in, and then pretty much the floodgates opened. So he then had some dealings in the first ball that went into the box for where it came out to Foden, and then Foden chipped it in for Haaland's header, Haaland's goal number 1. And then he had the corner where that was such a good... I mean, if anyone wants to know about corner tactics or training ground corner routines, that was one. Short play, Bernardo Silva fizzed that so low into the feet of... I want to say it was...
I'm going to say Alvarez.
Was it Alvarez? Yeah, it might have been Alvarez. That then gets played across the box for John Stones to clearly tap in or shoot with, but he scuffs it and missed a right place at right time. Erling Haaland gets his second, and then the third goal. Well, I mean, this is what we were talking about with Haaland this season. Is going to get so many of these hat tricks because of the way he plays. He's a right place, right time. He's got the brilliant mind to be in that space. You'll see his heat map. If you haven't, go and look at it for that game. He doesn't stray. He stays in the centre of that pitch, up front, getting ready to make the right moves to score goals, and that is he will score plenty of goals this season. And played. I thought Gundogan was close to playing this ball too late, if I'm honest. But Haaland said where he wanted it, and absolutely shrugged off. Who was it? Ward.
I think it was Joe Ward, and then Anderson was arriving.
Anderson was arriving, weren't he? Yeah, that was the thing that Gundogan had nearly given him too much time for. But he shrugged off Joel Ward like it was nothing, to be able to tee himself up and then slot it away for a second half hat trick. He looks insane, and 30 goals a season. I think 30 goals in the Prem. We might be looking at 30 goals plus in the whole of the season, including Champions League. I just got that feeling that I know there'll be a lot of resting, and obviously we've got the World Cup will play a factor. Not sure how much it will for Haaland because of Norway necessarily, but
not qualifying.
Yeah, but I think it'll just mean that they'll less rotation around their main games with him. I think you'll see Alvarez will probably play the EFL Cup games and things, but really I think Haaland's going to be in most, if not all, Premier League games and Champions League games as well. They've got to be careful and clever still. After his hat-trick he went off, and I think that probably will happen if they are looking like they've sealed the games. But we think the game's being sealed, and I'll take you back to when they played Real Madrid in the semi-final of the Champions League, and no game is sealed completely, is it? So they've got to be mindful of that, although me and Luke did allude to the fact that was because they took Kevin De Bruyne off, who was pretty much commanding the midfield for that game.
But also,
so are we just going to miss the one huge controversy in this game?
Oh, okay.
There was the situation where Palace could have been 3 up. So there's an incident where Edison's rolled the ball out, Eduard's blocked the ball, and then put the ball in the net.
Yeah.
So I believe there's a rule in the handbook that specifically says if the ball's not fully left his hand,
yes,
that
it
you're
has
not
to
allowed
be
to get
released.
involved. And I'm assuming, I haven't seen clear camera angles, but you'd think that when he stuck his leg out, he's not gripping it, but he's still releasing it.
Yeah. So they talked about it on Match of the Day a little bit, and I think they'd seen it from a few angles, and they couldn't seem to decide whether they thought it had left his fingertips or not either. So I guess in that scenario, you have to give benefit of the doubt to the goalkeeper, because they always say goalkeepers are protected species, aren't they, essentially?
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I think in that I agree. I do think that because a lot of people were comparing it to the Karius thing, and I thought that was completely different. Karius definitely had released that ball when Benzema pinched it and scored.
That's 3-0, 2-0 and 3-0 are very different results at that point.
Oh yes, massive. Yeah,
So
definitely. I think
City might
3-0
not
you
make
can
that
close out.
comeback.
Yeah, 3-0 you can close out. 2-0 is still, well, especially against a team like Man City, is still vulnerable. But yeah, from what I understand, I don't think there was any clear way to see that it had actually left his fingertips. So maybe there needs to be a bit more clarification on this rule, like whether they're saying they need to have a full hand on it, or a full, or part of the palm or something, a bit like how the handball rule is we in the Man United game they were talking about Scott McTominay's but actually it was completely accidental. You see him, he's just kind of with their forward struck sort of flailing around and things like that. None of that was incidental. None of that was it's just him trying to move himself and prepare for me. He hasn't gone to swat the ball away, not like one of the games we're going to talk about in a moment where I think that definitely did happen. So I think that was a disallowed goal. Do you agree, Mers?
I think because it's at the advantage of the goalkeeper in that sort of situation, it isn't going to be a goal. It's always going to be turned around and be as a disallowed goal.
Yeah.
Just because of that.
So we'll go on to while we're talking about that sort of situation, and we'll skip to that part of the Forest Tottenham game and then talk about the rest of the game generally. So for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll let you guys decide, have a weigh in or whatever. For me, Steve Cook gets a red there, because he is watching that ball all the way. Right? They showed it in slow motion. It's not like he's gone to challenge Kane and has gone up for a head for the ball, and his arm is up in the air. His arm moves towards the ball and he is watching that ball as that comes in. To me, that looks more like a save than some saves that goalkeepers pull off. So for me, that was denial of a goal scoring opportunity, which is a red card.
Mm-hmm. It depends on the flight of the ball. So if clearly in that situation VAR's deemed that it would have gone over Harry Kane's head, or if it wouldn't have, it hit the top of his head and not gone goalward, like it headed it over or something, based off the flight path of the ball. So even though Spurs fan, I'd love to just absolutely talk rubbish about Forest here and winds people up, I think they've done enough due do due diligence to realise that's probably striking the top of Harry Kane's head rather than downwards or towards goal. It's more than likely going over.
So that sort of then cancels out the intent of what he's done.
Yeah, in a way. It's the fact it's direct denial of goal scoring opportunities the way you're going for.
Yeah.
I think yes.
Because they're saying it's not a goal scored opportunity because it would have been over his head.
It would have been either over his head or it strikes the top of it and goes skyward.
Okay.
That's what I think that they've deemed.
Mers?
I can't really comment because I haven't seen that highlights of that game or anything. The only thing I have seen about that game is the thing that Luke sent me last night about Richarlison. That is the only thing that I've seen.
Yeah, that was... Well, to me, that was like classic Sunday League, but we'll talk about that in a second. Yeah, and the other good thing, I suppose, is to see Kane getting a brace. Obviously, the penalty following that. Dean Henderson, good save. Not the greatest of penalties, but a good save, and looked absolutely delighted with his save as he flapped his cap around in the air at the crowd. But yeah, it's good to see Harry Kane getting a brace.
Absolutely, put him third all-time top goal scorer, tied with Andy Cole.
Yeah, that's nice to see. Good for England, good for Spurs. Kulusevski again looking pretty good for you guys as well. And yeah, let's get on to the other person that assisted a goal in that game and talk about Richarlison. So, if you guys haven't seen this clip, then I urge you to go and find a clip. And I'm going to say, probably type in on YouTube, Richarlison gets battered for showboating, because I reckon that'll probably be good enough to find what we're talking about. So, for no reason whatsoever, because there is no reasons for this, he gets the ball, he does some kick-ups, he taps the ball away, and then he gets absolutely swiped. Now this always takes me back, when I say about the Sunday League thing, this takes me back to like when I used to play Sunday League and think about like other people that played Sunday League. It was like, if the guy turned up in the pink boots or turned up in the Nike, you know, all these crazy coloured new Nike boots and things that come out, basically it put a target on his back. And that was the way it seemed to be on Sunday League. Whether this guy was good or not, or skillful or whatever he thought, it just seemed to be a thing. And this was exactly like that scenario. He showboated, and basically, yeah, one of the players, I can't remember who it was now.
Brennan Johnson.
Was
and
it
Neco
Johnson?
Williams.
Yeah,
Both
it was
of
Johnson.
them. It was
yeah.
both of them.
Basically decided that, yeah, they'd had enough of that. They weren't going to sit there and watch someone do that to him, and absolutely went through him. One of the funniest clips, one of the most sort of just desserts, I think, and no doubt probably something that Conte will speak to him about, do you think, in the dressing room?
I think that's probably something he's spoken to him about and gone, listen, you're a wind-up merchant. Go out there and wind them up. He's probably going to encourage it more. Spurs need a mentality change. They've needed a mentality change when they're under Mourinho.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say the exact words Mourinho said, but he said they needed to be a bit more rough, a bit more tough, a bit more, how do you say it? Just bullish. Wind people up. Get involved. Don't just sort of be there for a good time and, we didn't get the result. Oh, damn.
Like a no more Mr. Nice Guy.
Yeah, no Mr. Nice Guy. Just go after them. Make them hate you. Wind them up. If you wind them up and get under their skin, they might get booked. They lose their head, they then get sent off. That makes the game easier. So if anything, I can actually see Conte encouraging this more, and I love it. I love stuff like this. I love stuff like the Battle of the Bridge. I like stuff like Richarlison winding people up here. It's what
Talk about
about.
You like the S-housery, don't you?
I do love the shithousery. It's great. But it's almost a part of the game. It's stuff that fans... And if someone on your team starts doing it and you start complaining about it as well, come on, it's a part of the game. You always love winding people up as a part of football. It's a given.
Do you think it comes back to that thing like when we were talking about Núñez, though, that there's like an appropriate time when to do it and when not to do it?
Yeah, that definitely comes down to it. And, you know, two goal lead late on in a game is probably a good time to do it.
Yeah, this was like the 85th minute or something, wasn't it? It was quite late on.
Yeah, it was about that time.
Yeah.
And at that point, honestly, should we start looking into a red card for one of the two of them? Because that's endangering an opponent. No intent for the ball, he's specifically had him. So would that be deemed violent conduct from Johnson for the original tackle? And if you look at Neco Williams from one of the angles, he's specifically looking back and intentionally falls over and then pushes down on Richarlison. He's definitely laid one in, so I'm shocked he didn't get a booking. But Brennan Johnson did get a yellow card for it.
Yeah.
But
it's
with
definitely
sort of
aggressive.
a level of tackle like that, you're shocked that nothing's been looked into. At least a VAR check.
Yeah.
If they deem it's not enough, fair enough. But you'd at least think something that gets the commentators going, whoa, whoa, gets looked into.
Yeah, I suppose it can't be that, you know, they don't give it because of his, because of the reason why they've gone into him like that. Like, that's not really the point. The point is what the tackle could have done for him and his career if it turned out bad.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so let's put it in then. Predictions as we end today's episode of the podcast. Predictions for the first manager to get sacked.
Oh, it's a tricky one because I feel like there's probably two names that are shoo-in: Rodgers and probably Gerrard.
I'd chuck Lampard into that list as well. Lampard's not done anything special at all with Everton. I know he's not got much resources and possibly even losing Gordon, but they're going nowhere. Not that they're going nowhere fast, they're just going nowhere, period.
Yeah, I agree. I think for me, looking at the sides and what I would say, what's the right word here? Potential?
Expectation?
Or yeah, what I think that the side should be achieving as to what they're looking like at the moment. For me, it's Brendan Rodgers. There's a lot of quality in that Leicester side for them to have not be sitting on the bottom of the table. So something is drastically going wrong. Not a lot of that team has changed, and still there's enough quality in that side for them to not, like Chelsea aside, not be sitting on the bottom of the table. So I feel like that for me puts him at the top of the list with Gerrard very close behind. And then I think you could argue that because of, again, like you say, although they haven't spent the money and got the resources, Bournemouth manager could
Scott Parker
could potentially go.
Possibly, but I think
his against Everton though, didn't he?
They think a lot of him, and that's the thing. From what I gather,
they got the win obviously against Aston Villa on the open day, and then obviously they've had to play Arsenal, Man City, and Liverpool.
Yeah, which will factor in, won't it? Definitely.
Yeah, exactly. Not the best of starts for them.
But you can't ignore a 9-0.
You're not expecting though wins. Look at Southampton. They tend to always get. Yeah,
Hassan will survive two of them. Saying a newly promoted Bournemouth manager can't survive
That's true.
that.
Yeah.
Whilst the manager for Southampton survives two of them, is almost sacrilege considering who they've come up against. They got Wolves next, and then Forest. So they've got some games that are going to be, I was going to say slightly easier. I mean, definitely easier than those three they've had previously, and the only one they won. So this is where we might get to see the true makings of Bournemouth, but maybe Wolves. Yeah. I think Forest are going to sweep that up, considering how they played against Spurs, which we didn't really touch on. They demolished Spurs. Spurs
they definitely deserve more out of that game.
100%.
Like
100%.
I couldn't believe they didn't score, but it just seemed to be a case of not being clinical enough right at the end. They certainly created a lot of chances and had a lot of opportunities. It was just that final composure and end product was just lacking, wasn't it? And thankfully so, I suppose, for you. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was painful to watch. Although Spurs are just generally painful to watch. They are horrific to watch. The football we play is try and get a goal, sit in. Try and counter, sit in. We are what you describe Palace as. That's what Spurs do against newly promoted sides. But yeah, looking at Leicester and Villa's next few games, they're not kind. Leicester's next two games are Man United at home and Brighton away. And then they ironically have Villa. So that's the third one. Villa's are even worse than that. They've got Arsenal at the Emirates and then City at Villa Park. So, yeah, both of them could go pretty much at the same time. If they wait 2 games and then sack them, they've got each other next game.
Yeah, do you think they could play each other managerless?
They could play each other managerless, or they could play with interim manager, or they could play loser gets fired.
Loser loses. Yeah, loser loses their job.
Honestly, if anyone's going to get sacked, I don't think it's going to be until towards like that game week 15, 16, maybe 14 area, because of the whole World Cup situation. I think maybe clubs will look at that and say, okay, any manager can go up to about that, but if the results are not looking good, we're going to get rid of them just before that whole break, and then look at that time to get a new manager in.
Well, look at some of the managers of the international teams as potential.
Not just that, but use that like month off to look
to scout.
To scout and like interview and make sure that they take their time to get the right candidate, because they've got that opportunity. Because there's not necessarily any rush necessarily, because half of the team's players will probably be at the World Cup, so it's not like you can have proper training sessions to get used to the team, because you'll probably mainly be playing with the reserves and those that just haven't, whose nations haven't really been able to make it to the World Cup and stuff. So they'll use that time, and then obviously probably about halfway through is when they point, and then obviously get to then start doing the whole rebuild and stuff, and then look towards the January transfer window, because that's the other thing, is it obviously will return just before the January transfer window, so there'll only be a couple games before that opens.
The thing is, though, it's just, how much damage can you sustain during that time? A lot of damage could be done by that point, and then it's almost like you're giving yourself a far steeper hill to climb.
Exactly,
but a new manager wouldn't be able to do much fixing in that time. You got to think, like, most managers obviously want to change a few things within a squad, and that's why most teams, if they do sackings, it's usually just before January transfer window, because then they give that new manager the opportunity to make a few changes to the squad, to implement their style, or just to think whoever will help them with whatever the philosophy of the club is. So like, say for instance, if it's say a Bournemouth, it's obviously to stay up. If it's an Aston Villa, to get mid-table. If it's Leicester, probably to go for maybe European spots. So,
but let's not forget here, it's not like, with the exception of Bournemouth, it's not like these teams don't have either a bit of squad depth or have actually bought players into this transfer window. So it's not like they've not got a team to work with and they're having to change anything drastically. It's just that something in this club is not working.
Well, yeah, but then that might not be the manager, because like Bournemouth have now finally signed a couple of players, but they haven't signed many players. Leicester haven't really signed any players, so is that the manager's fault? Whose fault is that the players haven't been coming in? Is that some head of recruitment? Is that the technical director, if they've got a technical director? Like, who is the one that's being responsible for the recruitment?
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to say all this time, is it worth persisting with a bad manager as much as you could just chuck in an interim manager whilst you're looking for a replacement? At that stage, you could just give it the assistant coach. Especially, how is he going to do any worse than Steven Gerrard is? Villa being the main one I'm looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Villa, their games, as I said, Arsenal and City. If you sack him after the Arsenal and City game, and you give the, no offence, easier game of Leicester, Southampton, Leeds to an interim coach, is realistically going to get more out of him than Gerrard is, or if not the same.
Yeah.
So at that point, do you give it to the interim coach? I'll use the example of Ollie, but that isn't the best example, because look what happened towards the end of his reign. But you've got to be getting more out of this squad, and it's all. I'd say, as much as I probably agreed with the decision, this probably all sparked from Gerrard deciding to bin off Tyrone Mings as captain. That's probably left a huge dent in the morale at Villa, and then they've not been putting out performances.
Well, yeah,
fresh
because I
start
remember
of a new manager might lift that.
I remember when we had LCB on the thing, he was actually saying that he'd been one of their best players. Like, so I can see why that would annoy fans if one of their own fans is feeling that way about that player. So,
well, not even fans, it's the players themselves.
Yeah,
the players themselves. Their captain, their lead has been, because of what seems to be a potential spat between him and Gerrard, then got dropped for a couple games. I don't think that they've got a good morale over there at Villa at the moment. It's borderline probably toxic.
Yeah.
So if you bring in a new manager, maybe that remedies the situation and performances then take an uptake.
Time will only tell in that sense, and we'll call it there for this episode of the FUT Tiers podcast. As I say, Extra Time, which is the next feature of this episode, will feature on all good audio platforms and on YouTube as well, so you should go and check that out. After this, we will be talking about the UCL draw, as well as addressing your questions with our hopefully controversial or non-controversial answers, depending on what we've got to answer today. But thank you all for listening. Thank you, as always, to LAJS and Mersgoth, my fellow FSB creators, for joining on today's podcast.
No problem.
And we will catch you guys over on Extra Time. Be sure to go and check that out. Follow us on all of our socials. Links are down in the description. Make sure you get over on Discord and follow us over there as well. We've been the FSB creators. Catch you later.
Peace
Bye-bye.
out, guys.